Let me describe a couple extra things to you. The bus was lurking up there, and I noticed that there was nobody there on a place that directly used. Yeah, there was one car there, a pickup truck, a white pickup truck, exactly like the one from the other day when this happened. I moved out as this, slightly after, so you should assume it's the same one from yesterday. You have the plate. Second, the bus was lurking over there, and you're going very slowly on top, and not on the bump, because you can see the bump is in the back. It's not early. It was waiting for me to run faster. That's the suggestion that they have on things. I didn't know what Premiere was in YouTube, but it seems pretty cool. I already shared the video with Tony. Now, next time, as I said, I'm going to come back to this very place. I'm going to stay in front of the bus. I'm going to get the driver's face so we get to know and historically. And again, this is not just a casual case of not stopping even, which is part of this crime, usually involving me being exposed to the drugs that they throw at me. Also confirms what I talk about those two places. But, not confirms, but heavily substantiates, because the amount of drugs that were in the past here actually was, normally I would say that they were not nothing, but they were not, in my opinion, as strong as in other days. Or maybe it's because the sheer amount of drugs that they throw on me there, that this fails in comparison. But, and that is the point. But as I said, the retorted cruelty there on the delay, so I will run. As I said, this is more than close enough. That's a stop. Just stop here. Some of them, if you're just braking, like that, they might be slowing down as I kept going forward. I'll get in. There were at least half a dozen times when that same bus, each and every single time I was filming video and properly reported by the number of the buses I did on this one. So, hasn't been published yet directly, because as I said, this case, this whole affair, Fuse affair, is stopped press directly. There's several reasons why that's not done normal through the internet. It involves the fact that, as I said, even with all the drugs, this would be a massive persecution attempt to destroy the life of one person, done by every single face they combine, and they having a hard time. And again, as I often say, thank Christ is happening now on competent people, because they will not have a chance. As for the rest, for the things, I'm gonna dive on a couple other things. I'm giving a couple samples based on the things that they would likely accuse me of. So you get to see, when you get to see the things you get to see, and if the things I say would change what you get to see and your conclusions of what you get to see of things, as I said, like that. Two other days, including on the 1st of January and 25th of December as well. That same bus on this time, because again, they only have one bus. As I said, they're the only company allowed, so if you're not happy, you can either buy a car. If you don't have money for a car, you can go walking, or wait 2 hours for the next bus. So the next bus is in 2 hours. And for what it's worth, they would be passing very slowly in front of here, in the bus stop. All the other times I was in the bus stop already, and one inclusive, I arrived very early. There was someone on the house standing in front of the porch until the bus left behind, then they just went back. Again, properly showed on video every single other time, kind of like you saw for the pickup truck here. Again, just every single time. But for that one, they would slow down a lot. So I would, for things that they be opening the back door, so I can enter with those. I usually loaded with something because I don't have a place to leave. They follow through my things, whatever I leave them. So since the entire bag there is full of evidence for you to see of the drugs that they're pouring on me, air samples and other things. So those are here just videos that other stuff that they from me are properly sampled and you can test yourself. So the for the other times they would just not, and they would just slow down, and then as I said, as I would get closer to the door, they move away as if some sort of sick joke. And then you flip to my face and you'll be like melting down sweat and effort and other things for carrying the thing. And that's not his vehicle, or that they're offering a service. As a matter of fact, they're the only public transportation company in this city. Don't know if they're only allowed, but there's a difference between the official version and what actually would be the reality of the situation. So you should look deeper into that. Or matters is that de facto is the only company. There's another one that goes to another city, but only has one line. The line does not show on the app. They're supposed to pay by taxpayer money. I say that because it bears the name of the supervising unit. Same thing for the cars. The entire card system is supposedly from Foxtrans, which is the supervisor body. Again, supposedly based on the name, paid with taxpayer money, except, as I said, only has one very private company doing the entire thing, which is this one. I don't think that has much to do. Well, I mean, if there was competition, they likely wouldn't have to wait 2 hours to take a bus to go to the mall on Sunday. Again, if it does happen to be poor enough not to have money for a car. But other than that, I'm quite sure that this crime exists as a prescription to me, regardless of this. Oh, by the way, standing here in the sun feels way more comfortable than over there where I was, because they're pouring those drugs there. Now, I don't know much, as I said before, never used drugs my entire life at all, not trying or anything. Much of a nut, most of it. I don't have many friends. And what are you thinking? No, just by the way, it's too messy. What is it? No, it is. You see that is all full of filth and, you know, I won't be able to just finding a place to organize my things. By the way, it didn't look like this. That they have pictures, you can see this is the result of their crimes, as you saw through many behaviors in the mall when they wanted to give me leftovers of food and want me to eat that. I actually accepted it, and I'm thankful for that. As a matter of fact, I have to continue accepting, because the cats, they loved it. It was like fish, and they, you know why? Because I bought the cheap food for them. It was a promo food. They hated. They would rather not eat, which was making me very worried. And then they would eventually eat, and they would eat just what there. Funny enough, I couldn't eat anything up to now. I was trying to get them all to have lunch/breakfast, because I cannot swallow the things that I purchased. Just feel disgusting. Just throw something in while I was asleep. They did that before. I don't know if they... I don't know. This head is all full of filth. And to see that I brought all those things here and stayed that in time, with the bus lurking and slowing down to sadistically get me to move faster, just to as a matter of fact, for the next one, I probably have to do it live, because if they try to run over a person, that should be filmed, and live is, well, safer. Let's leave it at that you get to see. So as I mentioned before, the company is aware of all those details. There several times ago, by the fact that they're essentially a monopoly. Not essentially, they're literally a monopoly. They are implementing changes, like they're throwing drugs inside the buses at times. They should do that occasionally. They later change by instead of drugs, something that irritates the skin, and they'll do that in every single bus. Problem is, skin is a skin is a skin. It affects everybody in the same way. So they're doing that with everybody else inside the bus as well. You would imagine that all those criminals would have agreed to it or be voted out and have to stay inside the bus. It's something that straight up irritates the skin to the point, at least in my case, of scratch to the point of bleeding. You should listen for a day, and any other criminals might have to say about this, let's say about me. It's my opinion, I'm a saying, but now you're gonna find out that structure. That's structure. The mucus is the tricks that they're throwing there. I'm sorry, I know it's gross. It's, again, I have tons of hair follicles for you to test as well. Most are just out of hair that falls that I would sample. When I was in Buenos Aires before here, in hotels. It's like many hotels in Buenos Aires. Well, towards the end of the sun is a biological model. Here in the city, in many hotels, we were sampling a lot of hair follicle. So, I don't know for the beard, for the head. But you can test that space as evidence here, as I understand those things contain, where it can be traced back to samples to several months, not years. So we're talking about to know if what substances are in my system, working up to an year, if not more, in the back. Those hairs are pretty big, so I don't know if that's how this is done. What it's worth, as I said. Much like mucus. Mucus is just a way to sample within the air, the way I understand, and lung is expelling this. It's too much, you cannot take it, so it just pushes it out. Even if it's something more localized, it's still going to be filled with what I'm breathing in. So whatever they're throwing in the air, you're going to find great samples of that in it. I usually sample and date and place with the place that I collected from, they happen on there, plus any sensation that I was feeling, like, for instance, sedation, or, again, I was feeling high, or I was feeling nausea, or something of this sort. It varies. They threw all sorts and then drugs on me. I was trying to sleep because they wanted me to move out of the place with my backpack, and they documented everything in video already. Again, the whole plan was for this whole thing to be given to the press, which is why only fractions of that are here, and much like the video you're gonna see later, because it's just the bus goes every 2 hours, it's the same bus with likely the same criminal driver, and because of that, it's likely to be the same. And as I said, if it does, not if it does, we're not gonna give it a chance to. As I said, they might try to run over a bus, which is a crime, mind you. regardless of whatever reason you have someone sitting in front of the car, you unsurprisingly don't have the right to seeing the person from ahead of advance to run the person over. So you might witness a crime as well. But other than that, as I said, even if they don't actually do it, the damn alone. So, and that's the point. It's for expedite purposes. As I said, this is not the type of thing that will convince you if you don't feel convinced. None of those things are self-contained, like you saw the thing I was doing. It's a shame I couldn't show it to you, the sadism in which he was moving slowly up there. Maybe you could listen after the audio, but it's a shame you couldn't see it. But just to finish what I was mentioning about the company. Yeah, so all the buses at the same time, at least on the buses they thought they would take, which is this one mostly, and one other, were having those things inside. They usually leave the final stop and then they would just spread it inside the bus. Everybody inside would be feeling it. They would understand those rotation things meant to prey mainly on open wounds. And as I said, they were doing non-stop to me, which means the wounds never got to close. And because of that, like everywhere, here and any other places, I'll be more affected by anyone with mosquito bites, anyone with anything that gets in a place like this. Imagine what happened a lot. We'll be suffering from that. Not a thought. Again, that's the things that come with having a monopoly, why the shit is so fun. So, but again, that's not the problem, because as you're going to see, and you've seen already, everybody, or virtually everybody, not literally everybody, those are people who don't want anything to do with this, but virtually everybody, or percentages, demographics, are involved in this crime to, again, one person. It'd be beautiful in the future when you can surely compare the numbers, because that's not an exaggeration. As I was saying in the previous one, that's literally the reality of what you see. You see, no one is helping it. So it's me and thousands, if hundreds of thousands, or even millions throughout a couple countries, even throughout this continent, and even potentially other ones, and then me. You have to look it up. Again, as I said, that's not the real evidence from none of those things. You have to discern from external sources. As I said, it's just me myself. From the perspective, I could not get that type of evidence as effectively. And there's something as simple as what would be happening over there on the mall when I'm not there. They're throwing those drugs there when I'm not there. I don't know. It's just me. So that's why the whole plan was to contact the press and get that to distribute. So again, if you don't feel convinced, that's not evidence for you. That's shocking to a certain degree. But most of all, that's an emergency. That is to, whatever happens, guarantee that you get to see it, as I said before. If they decide the crimes, again, they're not smart, they throw types of drugs on me. The drugs could have had a major effect. Other things could have happened. And if anything were to happen, you should get to see the evidence, because I did some backup in which the press knows more or less what to look for, and they're likely to find it. And we organized pretty well, even before I arrived in the city. But just in case, but that wouldn't affect newer evidence like this you see today, or what happened yesterday, or happened 2 days ago. When inside the mall, they're throwing something in the air, and then instead of causing me those drug sensations, caused me to feel agony and pain, torture, basically, to attempt some type of compliance, which didn't work. So, again, as I said, that's a beautiful point to mention. Law enforcement knows of all the details about this. They understand it. They know what's happening. They perfectly, they turn a blind eye deliberately. As I said, what happens these days is that you have people throwing drugs in front of police stations, as described in videos. as a way for me to mention to you. A couple other things that have been happening, as you saw in the bus company throwing drugs inside the bus, which affects everybody, not just me. And other things that happen when law becomes a suggestion rather than the rule. But that diminishes, to say like that diminishes the major impact, which is every single face you see, every single face you don't see, most likely, is part of this process. I say that because, no, I cannot say that for sure. Because I'm biased. As I said, that's precisely why that's one of the reasons. Another one is authenticity. Just the resolution of the main reason. But anyway, as I said, from my perspective, it feels way more like a majority because virtually everybody that gets close to me is involved in this crime. But again, that's the caveat right there. Everybody that gets close to me, perhaps, other people actively will try to avoid. Is a random car passing through the highway involved in this? Maybe not. Or their random car, maybe not. Another one, maybe. And I don't know. But I'm just showcasing the sheer proportions to you and how difficult it is. It's been 3 years, every single day. In this city, almost 2. More than 3 years, 2.5 years. 3.5 years that I am aware of that. It's my understanding that they were stalking my home before this. And we had a grandmother and mother, which now is what I said, my biological mother, because she has done things that I couldn't describe to you, things that she would never have done. Father was vocational, and they were directly responsible, and I thought they are directly responsible for the destruction of the house. The only one left is Tony, as I said, in whatever state she is now, and me, for what you see. And as I said, what you see is the consequence of those 3.5 years of abuse, which you know how extreme it is, and as I said in the title of the previous one, the sheer, you wouldn't believe how literal it is until you get to see it. You have to see it. Everything's uploaded to Google Drive accounts. Also, we have physical copies, both physically. I don't realize that they were assaulting me virtually every night, mainly for my things and stuff, and I couldn't guarantee the safety of evidence. There was this guy from this place, for instance, in the black sun, they'll pick up some machinery with no AC. Basically, standing in the sun, it would almost be funny, if not jaw-dropping, shocking. They would be moving at those piles of wood from place to place in the off-chance possibility that they would find some bit of evidence, some memory card, something lying around. And I know that was the case because everything pretty much came back the way it was. There was nothing really done. There was no real purpose for that. They all try to give minor concessions to me as an attempt to control what I do, as you saw the other day in the mall when they would stop throwing drugs if they wanted me to stay longer in the mall, and then they would throw more drugs if they wanted me to move out. They even could give stuff, so to speak. As you saw several times in video, they pay bus rides from me if they want me to take a bus in particular. But of course, that wouldn't apply to every bus. As a matter of fact, there are buses that Keeley. Instead of that, you see what you just saw in the previous video, but the bus would just refuse to stop. It's a major point to realize. Yeah. Matter of fact, that bus is gonna pass here on that way. We're gonna cross the street and they're gonna show me passing. So I got you got a pretty good picture already. Just drop below there and keep it safe. Just driving it reckless. But as I said, there is nothing the company is not fully aware of. You often hear most of the populace inside the bus mocking the things that I say in relation to that. For instance, I kept mentioning, if you want to go to the mall on a Sunday, you have once every 2 hours, you miss the bus because of maybe it want to stop for you because they can do that. Then, well, 2 hours later is when you get to go. Maybe the restaurant will be closed and you don't get to have lunch on Sunday. But like, why the fuck you pull? Right? If you had a car, that wouldn't be a problem. So, again, for the only public transportation company allowed in the city, where the city actually pays for both the card system, which I imagine has a lot of IT guys, a lot of things that work, a lot of machinery. And I know that because even when you pay with your card and it goes into the bank statement from my bank, it says specifically Forstrans, not the name of the company. So presumably it's owned by the city dealing with it. Again, I entered on the internet and it says that the company is private. Maybe it is a public company. Then that would apply that well, but then it's 10 times worse because much like in other places like not available US for always like legal stuff. If the company is owned by the government, it's bound by all the rules the government is bound by, and essentially means that what they're doing changes character from something that private company could do by something that the government could, in some cases, cannot do. And then you're applying that being done by the government through this company rather than anything else. But as I said, I looked up in the web and there was like this website and even gave the personal information of how it was. Apparently it's a limited company, limited ownership. It's not trade stock, it's just share it. That's the name for that. I forgot the terminology in English again. First in front of me the entire night. But what is worth? Yeah. But that's the point. It's not only that, but also the entire card system. The app that I get to use to track where the buses are is also all named for the city, which presumably, if it's named for the inspection body, it's presumably paid by them as well. I don't see why that wouldn't be the case. And if it's paid by them, it's paid with public money. Which, again, and I'm going to emphasize you, things like that I kept mentioning. And you see people often just marking that inside the bus. This is so small compared to the other things. And as I said, there is really no script. I cannot organize many things because I share about drugs and crimes that I do. Only. So that's essentially that. Matter of fact, the bus still leaving the downtown. Now I'll be passing through the mall. What I intended to go down to have my lunch/breakfast. Then we're gonna, again, as I said, cross the street and get the traffic properly documented here. So by the time when you're gonna see whatever crime you choose to do later, it's already filmed in here, and that's already visible to you. As I said, this also going to be still given to the press, which is just a halfway gap in case something which happened. That's why many of those are late uploads, publishing, schedules, and again, that's the way. those accounts already given to the press, by the way. I don't know, for the longest time I presumed they're just studying and watching. I picked major groups throughout the world, BBC, Finland, the ones that often have what just mean very specific clauses, along the instructions with that of what that's going to be left, not to relay on the local subsidiaries, which is that by the headquarters staff. Other than that, I think everything's pretty straightforward, so. And I don't know. So, that's essentially it. We're going to go to the back. We're going to a place where you can do that in secrecy. I'm going to organize the stuff. First of the this. And it was necessary, and it's a bunch of things that are leftovers. There are bottles and pots that don't need to carry. Nothing else, reduce the volume a little bit.